So what would have been day one of the Lagos doctors sit-at-home order has now been reversed by the Nigerian Medical Association Lagos State chapter. The decision was taken today after a meeting with executives of the association and also after clarifications we hear from the Nigerian police force, who gave the assurance of cooperation with all health workers. Furthermore, the NMA Lagos also received guarantees from the governor of the state, Mr. Babajide Sanwo-Olu, that no health worker will be further harassed in the course of their lawful efforts to sustain services in the middle of the pandemic. The doctors had earlier told their members to sit at home due to what they called incessant harassment of health workers in Lagos State. Well, for more on this, we have Dr. Shalom Oni. He is a member of the NMA in Lagos State, also a public health physician. We'd like to welcome you to the program.
Thank you very much, Millicent.
So it's great news to Lagos residents, especially in the middle of COVID-19, that the doctors now can resume work. But what were the experiences, the allegations of harassment before now?
Well, Millicent, the last thing you want to see as a doctor is returning back from work and you barge into a queue and finding out what is going on, you discover that the curfew has caught up with you and you cannot move. Now, currently, all health workers are stressed up. So to come and meet a situation during transit that could have been resolved if the coordinated response on COVID-19 is really working. It's sad. Now, let me say something here. Just that 24-hour miscommunication, between the government and, and the health workers, those who are also, and also those who are carrying out the activities, at the blocking the stations. There has been loss of lives, especially those who are non-COVID related. So we can't afford this to reoccur again. For me, I think the government has, come forward to give a release and reverse. But I believe NMA also gave certain terms. And I don't know whether those terms have been complied with. But I know that NMA will go back, look at what the police have been able to say, their release, analyze it. If they are satisfied, yes, they will give their own release. If they are not, honestly, the sit at home may just continue because nobody wants to experience this kind of thing anymore.
It's very sad that we're hearing that a number of people could have lost their lives in this 24 hours.
Yes.
With what you're saying.
There were cases of ambulance being turned back that night, that unfaithful night, ambulance turned back. Imagine patients who were already in an emergency situation. So this cannot afford to, happen again. And I believe that the coordinated response that also involve all agencies, they have to put their hearts together.
Well, that's also another question, because they're giving the reassurance, and this is from the police, that essential health workers and other services indeed are not part of that curfew and they should be allowed through. But the thing is, in actual fact, how do you enforce this, or how do you hope that when you close it, and it's 8 p.m. wherever you are, that you will be protected and allowed to pass?
All right. It is in two ways. Number one, it's one thing for the Commissioner of Police to say something. It's another thing for the people who are at the station to actually effect it to the letter. So that has to be resolved between the Commissioner of Police and all his men that are on the field. On the other hand, for the health workers, I will advise that every health worker should continue to move around with means of identification. Your ID card, a letter from your office showing that you are one of the COVID-19 responder, you are an essential service provider, and things like that. And not argue with, with the police personnel, that are on the streets. So for me, and there should be helplines here and there where you can quickly make a call so that, individuals who are stranded, on the streets, can be rescued. So these are things I believe, has to come into play before we can say, yes, this issue won't resolve anymore.
All right, let's move over to, indeed, ways we can stop the COVID-19 pandemic. We're seeing more community transmission in densely populated areas. How would you say we're managing things?
Well, it is sad that we are in the 100% community transmission, because this is a stage that you don't want to get into. After missing the initial window of shutting down flights early, around that early March, to the place of doing something critical during the first phase of the lockdown. Because what the lockdown was actually meant to solve was to ensure that you are aggressive in testing, aggressive in releasing results, aggressive in evacuating positive people out into isolation centers, and making sure that infection prevention protocols, are solid, in all the facilities. But now that we have missed the first window, second window, and now we are at the full community transmission. Number one, the health workers, they need to be protected now because COVID cases, non-COVID cases will be flooding the hospitals, both private and government. We talk about government, talking about the teaching hospitals, we're talking about the general hospitals, we're talking about the primary centers. So all health workers, at those levels must be fully protected. I've had colleagues or individuals arguing that, well, certain individuals don't need to be on full PPEs. But for me, I disagree. Because there have been instances of medical record officers, accountants, pharmacists also becoming COVID positive. So everyone working at that level must be protected. That's one. Two, the issue of lockdown, stroke, economy, it has been, an ongoing battle. Personally, I think, the lockdown should still continue. However,
partial or total?
For me, total. Because you don't want to get to a situation whereby you have the UK experience, the Brazil experience, the United States experience. How are you going to explain it when you're having 20,000 deaths, 16,000 deaths? These are not just mere statistics. These are human beings, for God's sake.
Let's quickly go to Imo State. I believe we have one of the member of the Imo State COVID-19 Task Force and chairman of the Enforcement Committee with regards to what's happening around the borders there. He joins us via Skype. Thank you so much, Dr. Donga Excel. Good to have you on the program. Tell us about enforcement around Imo State borders.
Can you hear me? Hello?
Go right ahead.
Okay, Imo State, being a state that has peculiarities, what do I mean? It's not as densely populated as Lagos. As chairman of the Enforcement Committee, we have been doing our best, ensuring that our borders are not porous. We have engaged the security operatives and we do border patrol periodically. And the governor has given an order that people should bury their dead within 2 weeks. And the dead we're talking about are those who died in Imo State. We're not asking people to bring in corpses from endemic areas or epicenters like Lagos State and all that. So when we were on patrol last week, we made sure that nobody brought in corpses. It's part of our protocol to ensure that our people are safe. As I speak at the moment, we don't have any confirmed case of COVID-19 in Imo State at the moment. So Imo State is considered to be free at the moment.
All right, Mr. Excel, what perhaps do security agencies know what to do when they see a suspected COVID-19 case around the borders?
Of course, the people that are there are not just security operatives, as the case may be. We have healthcare workers too. They have their high-health infrared thermometer checking temperatures and also ensuring that people that are coming in properly sanitized by using hand sanitizers and also having hand wash stations put in place at the borders.
Looking at the other checks and measures to ensure the interstate travel ban is not broken, what do you do when you still see people flouting the rules?
Of course, people are very difficult to manage. No matter what you do, you must keep on trying. Some people try to violate the others. They stop at some points and pass through bush paths to come into the town or the state. But when we find such persons and they are human beings, most of them are Imolites, they are our own, we won't ask them to go back if they are in place. But like I said, we do some periodic checks on the assessment checks based on temperature rise and sanitizing and coming in.
All right, we'd like to appreciate your time. Thank you so much, Mr. Donga Excel, the head chairman of the Enforcement Committee, also a member of the Imo State COVID-19 Task Force. Dr. Donga, thank you. Thank you so much for joining us. Just before we go on a break, and this is with regards to the COVID-19 response in terms of, would you say that we're under budgeting? I know we definitely need more funds, but with regards to managing the cases.
For me, it looks like, well, there might be an under budgeting. Two, efficient utilization of what has been budgeted. Because if we are not under budgeting and there's an inefficient utilization of funds, it will still look as if you under budgeted. So, but overall, looking at what is going on right now from the state to the local government and to the community level, there are a lot of gaps. Number one, PPEs are not adequate. Number two, those who are working at the community level, you remember there was an active case surveillance that was done in the month of April. Those who are working at the community level are not well remunerated. Number three, today we cannot really say that every health worker already has an insurance cover. So these are things you want to look into and say, yes, is it not a case of maybe we have under budgeted or funds are not being well utilized? So for me, it's out there.
All right, we appreciate your time, Dr. Shalom Moni,
Thank you
public
very
health
much.
physician. Thank you so much
You're welcome.
for joining us on the program.